I'm Rene and I'm a tech analyst.
I'm Georgia Dowd, I'm a psychotherapist.
And welcome to Apple Talk, where psychology meets technology.
And we deal with how it interacts with our daily life.
Yeah, Apple and this week Intel, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, how they affect our culture too.
Little chip fights back.
But before we get into all that, we have a little bit of news, Georgia.
Yes, we were so lucky that we got to bring Apple Talk to a community to be able to help officials and their constituents and learn about social media and be able to teach a little bit about how it affects us, why it runs through, and we had an absolute blast.
We brought Apple Talk live to an undisclosable portion of the U.S. government. It was really good. It was really interesting because they had various levels of exposure and interest in social media already, in modern media. And we got to talk about, how we build social media literacy and sort of how you can help your community deal with it in its many wonderful and terrible facets.
Yes, exactly. And then what do we do with all of that?
Yeah.
So yes, if you want to have Apple Talk live
The Apple Talk live experience for you and your community.
Let us know.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, and we'll see if we can find some place people can see it.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Yes.
We'll ask.
Okay, perfect. So this week, I need to ask you something, Georgia.
Oh.
Let's say that you leave a fairly long-term relationship and create a new relationship, okay? You create a new family dynamic, so to speak, and you spend like a decade working together in partnership. And then you decide, you split up. It's time to, you still have some things together. I wouldn't call them kids, but you still have some, entanglements out there. But you go forward in a new direction that you think is better for you. But then your former partner turns out to spin around and create an incredibly aggressive, maybe some would call it hostile environment.
Yeah.
And if you think I'm talking about Apple and Intel, you're absolutely right.
Am I? Look over there. No, just joking. That's what happens, right? Just scorch earth, destroy everything that you remembered. You shouldn't do that, but that is often what happens when. It's so interesting because when we see these relationships that people, like companies have built, you would expect the dynamics would be different than it is in a relationship, right? Like
lovers scorned versus company scorned.
Two companies that are huge companies that you would think that would be above this.
Can I give you just a quick recap, maybe for people who aren't familiar with it? So Apple famously left PowerPC, went to Intel. They had huge success, made a whole new generation of Macs. And then last year they announced they were leaving Intel and creating their own custom silicon, like they've been doing for the iPhone and the iPad, because they believed they could make a better integrated product. They're still selling Intel Macs. They'll still be selling them for a while. They'll be supporting them for years. I still use an Intel Mac. Apple still recommends them. They've made announcements for new software features for them. And then Intel put out this, what I could only call factually challenged set of slides showing how much better they are than the Mac. And then a couple weeks, and they got kind of the reaction was negative to it. It was like, why are you lying? And the last thing is now they put out a series of ads where they got the I'm a Mac guy, Justin Long, to come back and say, I'm just Justin, and then roast Apple's new computers.
Okay, so let's kind of break this down on the psychology to it and why it doesn't work out. Because these ads, they don't work out, and I'll kind of go through why. So they took Justin Long. Justin Long had done these ads a long time ago with Hodgson's.
I'm a Mac, I'm a PC.
Well, they were I'm a Mac, I'm a PC, and he was the young, hip child who was like Apple, and Hodgkins.
Don Hodgman.
Thank you.
Adorable John Hodgman.
Yes, he was the PC, and he was stodgy, and he played old stodgy man versus Justin Long, who was hip and young.
Sorry, I just rebooted.
And so they hired Justin Long to slander Apple. And it comes off like you hired the person purposely to try to slander, say how horrible it is. So they
to own them, right? To own Apple with their own.
They tried.
But these ads are so old. Like, so that's the thing is, like, these ads are so old. Like, I don't want to date myself. These ads are like decades old.
Yeah. So the people that are buying, most of the people that are buying PCs probably aren't even going to know, haven't seen them, maybe have a little bit of it, but they don't have any emotional, like, this is not like...
You have to be really into Apple to know these ads now.
And he comes off with saying, I'm going to be real.
Yeah.
But we know that he doesn't actually know anything about computers. He's not really a computer guy. So we know that he's just an actor and he's paid to
Yes.
say whatever you.
And I mean,
so
good
right
for him.
away-
Get your money.
Totally fine. I like him. He's a nice
Yes.
actor. But like, you know that he's paid to say this, so it's not him getting real. It's him getting paid.
Him getting
which
paid.
totally do that.
Yes.
But he doesn't mean it. It's not genuine. And the stuff that he throws at Apple is stuff that everyone already knows. Like, it's fair. It's fair. Like, you know,
there's
he
two
goes
things
through,
that struck me. One
Yeah.
is that the stuff that they talked about in terms of what a PC can do that Apple can't do
Yeah.
has nothing to do with Intel.
No.
Like if you got an AMD PC, even if you got a Qualcomm PC, it would do the exact same things.
But that's the thing, is it was personal. Like, you could tell that these ads were personal. Like, one is it was so sponsorship when he's like, oh, that's Intel, that's good. Like,
With the
he
sticker on
mentions
the
it.
computer.
There's the sticker that they have the little tiny shot every
Yeah.
single time of Intel. Like, people are so, there's so much of that, you know, advertising of like, you know, in the middle of something, people are like, oh yeah,
Miles
when I
Morales,
have
Spider-Man.
this, here, take that. And oh.
Not sponsored by Marvel.
No,
But if you want to, we're
no.
wide open
Yeah,
to it,
we'll
but not
totally do
sponsored by
that.
Marvel.
We'll get dressed up and
Yeah.
everything.
Spider-Gwen, just saying.
I have the jacket.
WandaVision.
I have the jacket. So it already comes off. It comes off as contrived, and it looks like they were
Looks petty.
scorned because they're coming after Apple in a very
You hurt us way.
direct, I'm upset at you
Yeah.
and I'm gonna get rid of everything that is yours. And so some of the stuff I think it's fair judgments, but it's not stuff that people are like, oh my God, it's not as good for gaming. No, it probably isn't. Everyone already knows that. If you really are into gaming, you're probably not gonna be doing, you're probably gonna have both computers and do it on
Or
both
not a
like we
laptop,
do.
you'll have like a custom built PC like you have, like for VR and all those things.
Exactly. So that is where it is, and I just think that they miss. I think that they tried to use Apple against Apple and do their own cute little quirky advertisement, but they're copying 30 years ago.
The thing that struck me is that like Apple has very little market share in the Mac, and the M1 Mac are so new, they have even less market share. They have incredible mind share right now because the response to M1 has been so good. And I can see how that rankles Intel, because people are saying like the lowest power version of the Apple chips are better than any chip that Intel makes right now. But the problem with these commercials for me, like just not even like Apple Rene, but marketing Rene, because I started in marketing way before I went to Apple, like with Apple, like all this Apple web stuff. All these Apple video stuff, I should say now, is as a marketer, you learn early on, Coke never does a Pepsi challenge. Pepsi does a Pepsi challenge. Like you don't give publicity to the second and third place player. You act as if they don't exist.
Right.
So this is Intel saying we're now a second class player. Like that's the message I get sent from this. And then
And we're scorned.
Yes, and then because all of the stuff that they showed could be done, some would argue better with AMD, because like a lot of the gaming people now are going towards AMD. A lot of the laptop people, the price and performance is so good. And Microsoft is making, and Samsung are making Qualcomm based to try to get some of the advantages that the M1 has. So like none of the stuff is intrinsic to Intel. It makes them, they're advertising themselves as a commodity.
Right.
So not only have they said we're no longer number one, they're also saying we're a commodity in the PC mix, because all the value here is from Windows and the form factors that the PC vendors make.
And I don't think that it's really going to do what they hope. Like, it sounds to me...
Well, what would they hope? Like, what would they think? Like, in their mind, what
yeah,
would they think?
what were they thinking?
Yeah.
Why did they even do these?
I'm
So
so
my
curious.
my only thought to what they could be doing with this is that they're angry. Like, it seems like they're angry
So
at
mad.
Apple for leaving them. Truly, that's my thought, is that they're angry at Apple for leaving them. And so because you're leaving me, I want to just malign who you are as a company. And so they came out swinging. In some
How
areas,
dare.
a total miss. In some areas, they're fair
Yeah.
arguments.
No,
but,
some of them are really
but
fair.
people already know this. So they're not, no one's going to be like, oh my God, I didn't know, now I'm not
Oh
going to
my
buy
God, my
this.
Mac can't bend backwards.
Yeah, oh, I thought it could. That's not true. And so I don't think that it works.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think that they're going to get what they hope for, because the next piece is that if I was Apple, and Apple, as a company, they can sometimes be a little bit spiteful. Like, they're like, a little bit. So I'd be like, well, guess what? You know, we're going to make sure we go all in with Apple Silicon and make a chip that is killer.
Yeah.
Like, their best way to combat this is success. And Apple's good. When they're angry and upset at someone, they're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this could only work against Intel. Like, I could see them being like, you know what? If we have to go on another chip, Like, if we can't do it ourselves, like AMD might be
Yeah.
very interesting to see what they can do. Because let's just say it, if you partner with Apple, you do well.
Yeah. John Gruber said that he thinks they missed the mark because this was the wrong campaign. That instead of going back to try to emulate
a 30-year-old.
Yeah, no, but if you were going to emulate like a decades-old ad campaign, instead of the I'm a Mac campaign, go for crazy ones. Because that was when Steve Jobs returned and started turning everything around, that inspired Apple internally. It didn't just tell the world that Apple is an alternative to the beige box, but it told people inside Apple that we're back, that we're building this, that we're going to fight. Now, the problem with that for me is that Apple knew that they had OS X, the iMac, the iPod. They knew they were coming back. Like there was something behind that. I don't think Intel has anything right now that they could use for this. So what I would have done, just again purely as a marketer, is I would have gone back. I would have built on Intel Inside and done a series of campaigns to show the value of Intel.
I'm 100% with you. I would have not done an attack ad. I think that one is we're so sick of that with politics and everything else. It's like, ugh. And we're starting to have a negative effect to that. We're looking through and we're no longer just buying it. We're looking at it and going like, oh, this seems like
more
spiteful and angry. And they might actually look into, well, why? And then find out more about the M1 chip. This kind of gives a little bit of advertising to
the
why
Coke
would
and
they
Pepsi
be
thing.
so angry? And maybe it actually is better. So that would be one thing. I think that they could have sold their own brand. If their brand is so good, they could have just went at it, sold it, and told us, like showed us all the internals of the chip, push more people to see that Intel is this amazing, great company, versus these ads that are a little bit stale. They're not cute. They're not funny. When he's coming off as like, this can only hook up one monitor and you can hook up three, 1. Oh, like I'm like, no, like you're an actor and it doesn't even sell it. It's like
you give me a great idea though. If I was Intel and I was going to redo the Intel Inside campaign, I would just say, Intel is at the heart of everything wonderful that you want to do.
I like
and then
this.
you have like the gaming laptop, but then you end it with saying that's why all the most powerful PCs in the world use Intel, and you put a Mac Pro up.
But they would have to swallow some of their own pride.
But you see, it's not a pride thing. It's good for them to show off that the best computers are all using Intel.
It would have been. It would have been, but then they're angry, right?
Yeah.
But I think that you're right. That is a good thing. And they could have went through all the little layers of what goes into the chip.
Well,
and
just show the epic. Like I always hate it when people tell me, I want them to show me the epic gaming, show me all the stuff. Have a Mac running parallels that you can't do anymore.
Let me have the emotional ride of why Intel is a company that we should back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because I love Intel. The thing that I would like out of Intel is for them to make a chip so good, I regret Apple switching.
Yeah.
That to me would be the ultimate Intel play. Like make something so good that I want it again.
Yeah.
It's a position of weakness.
And maybe that's because we know the background. So this might hit for people that don't know. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments because maybe you know someone and this worked really well for them. They loved this ad. But when you know,
hashtag Team Intel, hashtag Team Apple.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team Intel. Hashtag Team Apple. Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments so we can see, because maybe it does hit for some people and they were like, oh yeah, Intel, so much better.
I tried to bend my M1 Mac back and it broke.
But the weirdest part is that it really was Intel's doing a commercial for PC versus a Mac.
Not Intel.
So it's not even for Intel. Like the commercial, I don't think that for most people that wouldn't know about technology would even think that this was an Intel
I don't know who
ad.
the audience is.
And I don't think that unconsciously this made Intel look great, because let's just say it, Intel is in a whole bunch of Macs.
My guess is that a bunch of grumpy executives paid a bunch of opportunistic consultants to come up with this idea to make them feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my guess.
And they didn't, like, you're in the bubble.
Mad.
I don't think that it worked. Yeah, and I was totally ready to be like, these are great ads. They're so much fun and work. And then I watched them and I went, oh, this is so, you missed.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
So you got free brand consultation from technology and psychology.
Could have hired Apple Talk and
totally could have. We would have presented to your executives. You'd be feeling great about yourself right now.
Such a better commercial.
What a missed opportunity. We can't help you.
Saved money. You wouldn't have had to hire Justin Long.
Yeah.
Though he's great. He's awesome.
Yeah.
He wants to come on Apple Talk.
Yeah.
We'll have you.
And the weirdest part, we didn't even mention this is how fun this is. They made the M1 Mac, and for some reason they decided, and this is common, like they photoshopped all the screens because it's hard to film screens live.
Yes.
And they photoshopped the MacBook with no bezels. They made it better. I want that MacBook.
Oh.
But ironically, the commercials are called Justin Long Gets Real, and a lot of stuff in them is fake.
Yeah.
Fake.
Yeah.
Lane. Okay.
Yeah.
Our second topic, this is interesting for me, Georgia, because you did a video this week, which is a topic you and I have talked about for decades, and that is one of my favorite topics, decluttering.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
The whole idea around decluttering is getting rid of things that you don't need anymore. Like, I'm not totally Maria Kondo on this. I believe I like your style better because I don't necessarily have to love something. Sometimes it just has to provide value to me. Like, it doesn't have to be emotional. Sometimes it's practical.
Yeah.
But I love all the things, and maybe you'll tell us a bit about that in a second. But what struck me was I got, like, they were offering some deals on newspapers, and I try to support real investigative journalism because I think it's under assault, and it's really valuable to have reporters who can afford to do, like, traditional crunchy journalism, to find out where all the skeletons are buried. And it was like one button, subscribe. And I don't even remember which one it was because I subscribed to a few of them, like all the big newspapers you'd imagine, like Wall Street Journal, New York Times. It was impossible to cancel them. Literally impossible. At the end, I had to get on the phone and beg my way through 8 layers of retention counseling. Are you sure you want to do it? We'll give you this. Are you sure you want to? And like, you basically have to come up with the equivalent of a doctor's note. Like, I'm sorry, I moved to Sweden and we don't get paper here to get out of these things.
Yeah.
It's the dark pattern.
Yes. And so California is enacting legislation to make, what is it called, Rene?
Dark patterns.
Dark patterns illegal.
Yes.
And finable if you are using them. And so these are the ways that websites, newspapers, gyms keep you.
Yes.
And the first thing is that if you have to find a sneaky way to stop people from canceling, maybe your product is not as good as you think it is, right?
So the opposite side of that, like, and I'm not justifying it at all, but from someone who's worked inside companies, the thing is, like, you always believe your product is great, and if you just have a chance to talk to the person, you can remind them why it's so great, and they won't leave you.
Okay.
So you have to force them to talk to you for their own good.
Which many of these companies do, right? So what the legislation is stating that it has to be the same way that you can subscribe, which they try to make the barrier to entry,
easy
steps to be able to get sucked in, hooked on, enrolled as easy as possible, and then to make a maze with, velociraptors and minotaurs and, spike traps to get out.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a roach motel. You can get in, but they can't find their way back out.
They call it that, right? That's what they call it in the business.
Yes, one of them is called a roach.
Because it was like literally one click to, because I think it was Apple Pay, maybe it wasn't Apple Pay, but it was some PayPal something.
Yeah.
One click to subscribe. I had to get on the phone call and talk to a bunch of people to get off.
Yes, and often it's many people.
Yeah.
You go kind of along the route and you have to be able to deal with it. There are gyms that there's one gym, I won't name any names, but there's one gym where if you subscribe, you can hook up in any gym any way you want, but you have to go to the same gym, the location, the same location. So if you hook yourself up to this world gym, you have to go and say that you did that in North Carolina and you moved
to Cleveland.
Yeah. You have to go back to North Carolina.
You have to leave the Cleve and go back to Raleigh.
Which could be thousands of dollars, and then they can keep on hooking you up. And so a lot of websites make the way to unsubscribe impossible. Like, you can't find it, it isn't there. Or you have to call, which becomes a nuisance because, it might not be the right day. You might not be able to find it. There's some that make really sneaky kind of ways, like the unsubscribe button doesn't work and brings you to another website, or it's really tiny and it's hidden among many layers of websites, which is so stressful to be able to hook yourself up to. And so this new legislation says that however way that you subscribe to it has to be the same way in which you unsubscribe, which I don't know how anyone can say this is not a great idea, except for the companies that do this.
Yeah, it's
so
happened
excited.
to me over and over again, and they're worried. Like, the companies are so worried that we just don't, us poor dumb consumers, just don't understand the value they give us. That they need to put these hurdles in place to save us from ourselves.
But no one believes
if you
that.
provide value, if you provide real value, first of all, people won't look for an unsubscribe. They're only looking for unsubscribe if if they actually need to because of financial reasons, like something has changed and they're hurting, in which case holding them captive is reprehensible. Or if they don't think that you provide value anymore. And the way to stop that is to continue to provide value and to recognize that if you don't provide value, people can leave. And if they need you again, they'll come back.
Because if it's an unpleasant, I'm never going to go back. I'm angry at the company.
And I don't go to companies now where I don't check I check the way to leave now first, and I won't do business anymore with companies that roach motel me.
I will actually call and speak to someone on sites that I can call and talk to someone to find out how, like I did one of those food delivery services where, and I'm like, it's subscription based. Am I going to be stuck in? Can I cancel anytime? So I did it. It was a great experience. I really loved it. And even though you're subscribed for like a month, they said like you can call and cancel at any point in time. So I got the like 50% off and then the 40% off, and then it went to 10% off. I went canceling, and now they only send me 40% off emails, which I accept because I think that I'll go back to them because it was that easy to cancel.
Yeah, it's experience design. Like we talk about experience design with like apps, even like the unboxing experience you talk about. When something is pleasurable and you enjoy it, it enhances it, makes it better. But I hate to be so markety. I apologize. This is a really markety episode. But you talk about like customer lifecycle management, and you want to.
What does that mean?
So that means like you have a life cycle of a customer. Like there's customer acquisition, which is how you get people in, and then there's like nurturing, like which is how like you try to get them to get more stuff. But also people leave and come back. But it's basically for the amount of time that you have with a customer, like how can you engineer the best experience possible for them, and helping them to leave. It's one of the things I do like about Apple. It's like whenever I've spoken to someone, they're like, we don't care we don't make cheap phones, because if you buy a cheap phone, we're not good at that, but we want you to eventually buy an iPhone. And we want you to love it so much that your next 3 phones will be an iPhone. Because they absolutely make money on the first iPhone, but if they can get you, I'm backtracking for a second, it is almost always easier to keep a customer than to gain a new one. So if you can keep a customer and keep them happy, even if they have to leave, if you've given them a positive experience, they're more likely to come back to you.
Yes, exactly. And support. And that relationship should be respectful. And that's the part that I dislike about all of these, what are they called again? Dark
patterns.
Thank you. Dyslexic, it's not good. My word bins are all messed up. But that's the way that these dark patterns, they're disrespectful to your customers. And if you treat people in a way that's disrespectful or rude or abusive, they shouldn't be there. Like when they talk about the worst
like cell phone carriers.
They talk about the worst companies, right? Almost all the time, it's because the customer service is horrible and the customer interaction or the user interface is horrible and makes people feel disrespected. And I have no place for that in my life. And so I'm happy that this is going to force, because if one place forces it, it is so much work for a company to have to just change it if you happen to be from one state, that they have to change it for everyone. So thank you, California. I believe that you have done a good deed for the world.
I agree.
And I hope that this gets passed really, really quickly and hopefully becomes just across the board.
What's annoying for me right now is that I have been subscribing to other services inside iTunes because I know that no matter what else happens, I can just go to iTunes and cancel a subscription because Apple is phenomenal about that. But it's sometimes more expensive because they have to give Apple a cut, so they raise the price. And some of them are so gross that I'm willing to pay like 20 or 30% extra just because I know that I can press a button and leave them. But also, like, they've made it sort of dodgy. Like, I subscribe to some of the channels inside the Apple TV, and you can't go to the app and then use the app as well. You can only do it from inside the TV app, and that's annoying. But having had to try to cancel some of those services previously, it was so bad, I'm even willing to do that.
That's a big deal.
Because
it really isn't pleasant.
Well, like, I just resubscribed. So this is a total tangent, but a few things like Netflix and Apple TV Plus and Disney Plus are international. Like, you can subscribe to them in multiple countries and you get roughly the same content, like the original content at least. Like, you get roughly the same. But like Paramount and Universal are so mercenary that they've licensed out. Like, if we subscribe to Paramount in Canada, we don't get Star Trek because they sold that off to Bell. And there is no HBO plus Max now, whatever it's called, because Warner's is so mercenary. They sold all that stuff off to Bell and Rogers and stuff as well. So we can't just, like, the Snyder Cut came out. It's got so much attention, and I wanted to watch it. And there's no HBO Plus here, but I found out they'd sold it to Crave. So I used to subscribe to Crave because I love Doom Patrol, but they really didn't have much of value. But I was willing to pay for it again just to see the Snyder Cut. So I went there and I go, oh, I can subscribe through iTunes. That means I don't have to deal with any of your nonsense. So I subscribed through iTunes, and then I find out, oh, I don't get the Snyder Cut because that's part of the upsell HBO Plus movie TV package. That's an extra $10 a month. And then you can't just use the iTunes, like in the beginning you can choose which iTunes plan you want, but then you can't go in and change the plan inside iTunes. I had to go to their website, scan a code, do all these things just to give them more money. And it's as someone using all these services, and we're getting more and more of them, it's intensely frustrating.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, so just fix all that.
Yeah.
Maybe that California law will become permanent everywhere.
Well, again, it becomes such a pain for companies to be able to try to just geo-lock stuff. I think that they have to.
Yeah. I mean, one figure out that's doing what's best for the customer is the best for you, ultimately.
But then you have to make a good product, and a lot of places are just going on bulk, not on great.
Quantity, not quality.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're not staying with us any longer, then Georgia, where can people find you?
You can email me, georgia@westmounttherapy.com. I'm on Twitter at Georgia_Dow. And you can check out my YouTube channel, YouTube/Georgia Dow.
YouTube.com.
You're YouTube.com/Georgia Dow.
And are you still doing the 30-day challenge?
I am.
What are we at now? Day 15, 16?
Yes.
Okay.
You let me know what number it actually is.
Yeah, it depends when they're watching.
It depends when you watch.
Yes.
But yeah, keep it up. Let me know how you're doing with it, and live a better life.
Awesome. And the decluttering video is up there, which was really, I love that stuff so much.
There's like a little short one, and then there's a long decluttering video, which gives you all the tips and tricks.
It's surprising how relaxed and like how much stress goes away when you declutter.
So good to declutter. It just feels good.
And you can find me, no, I can't remember.
You can't remember. How do you find you, Rene?
Twitter.com/Rene Ritchie or YouTube.com/Rene Ritchie. George has been helping me make my videos punchier and more spicy.
Spicy.
Spicier, and you can read I have my hot take, my hottest of hot takes about the Intel thing up there right now.
Aha.
All right, well, we do have one more thing, but that is our exclusive Nebula segment that those of you watching on Nebula are going to see in a few seconds anyway. But if you're not joining us on Nebula, it is so easy. You just go to curiositystream.com/ Apple Talk. Sorry, blind for a second. CuriosityStream.com/Apple Talk. You sign up. You get all of Curiosity Stream's documentaries. I saw one I don't know if they just added or I just noticed it, where they're interviewing Tim Cook about whether he's going to run for president.
Very cool.
Which is super cool interview, but they have just the world's best documentaries and TV series. And you get access to all of our videos with no ads, no sponsors. You get Legal Eagle. You get Jordan Harrod, Real Science, Real Engineering. So many great channels. All of them with bonus content, well, a lot of the time with bonus content, extra segments, things like that. So check it out. It's like less than $15 a month, and they often have sales. So just go. Take a look, see what you can get. It's fantastic. Thank you for watching, and for those of you on Nebula, here is our one more thing.